So Todd and I got together, we talked in New York, and he said, I want to really focus on this character of Rob Bilott, his family. I want to really hone in on that struggle that he had to dedicate his life to this and really dig in deep. And so Todd and I then went and spent a week in West Virginia meeting with Rob Bilott, his family, with the West Virginia locals. Mark Ruffalo was there with us for part of that. So we got to meet these people and talk to them directly, and that was really the basis for the new version of the script that we wrote. It was really based on the conversations we had with those people. It was, actually. So I have a political background, so part of that came easily in the sense that I worked for many years in politics, including as a congressional staffer, so I knew the system was not very friendly to those of us who are trying to create change. And that appealed to me. But I was not an environmental person by nature. And in fact, when I read all the things about chemistry in the New York Times article, I thought, God, I was a terrible chemistry student in high school. How am I going to write a movie that involves a little bit about science? But I think that actually it was good to not be a very scientific person, because my job was to translate that for audiences. So it couldn't be very technical. It had to be something that a dum-dum like me could understand and more sophisticated audiences than me. I was drawn into it really by Mark's passion too, because Mark is such a committed environmentalist. And so Mark Ruffalo said to us, this is such an important story. It has to be told now. We have a very specific set of time in which to tell it, both on his schedule and in the life of the country. And let's do it. And that's how I dug in.
Beyond bizarre, very humbling. I mean, this guy is amazing, and this entire crew has just been fantastic. They did a marvelous job. I mean, I could not have picked better people to put this together. They just did amazing work. Mark plays me over a 20-year period of time where I'm trying to find out why his farmers' cows are dying, why is he getting sick, and we end up finding out that there's a massive contamination problem. And all of the years trying to bring that to light and let the public know what's really going on. Well, when I first started off, I'm still working at the same firm, but most of what I was doing originally was representing big companies, big chemical companies, and when we took this case on, I ended up actually having to sue one of the companies, and over the next 20 years, really that's what we've been working on, is actually on the other side, trying to help the people who were exposed to the chemicals. I'm really hoping that people will, once they see the movie, they'll understand what they've been exposed to and at least be able to know, how can I avoid this? How can I minimize my exposure? If my water hasn't been tested, how can I go about getting it tested? What products is this stuff in? And I know there's going to be a campaign put together to try to help people understand what products is this used in, which companies are switching away from it, so they can avoid it. And you can do things to protect yourself.
I play Wilbur Tennant. I play a cattle farmer in West Virginia who enlists Rob Bilott to find out why his cattle are dying. Unlikely insofar as that they're from very different worlds. Obviously, Rob operates in the corporate world and corporate defense law universe, and Wilbur spends most of his days outside with cows and in nature. So in that sense, definitely, they have different lives physically there, but they also have a common goal, which is that the truth needs to be voiced and the truth needs to be asserted, and people need to know about it. I learned some about his personality that is harder to find as an actor, about someone who's one past, who's not around anymore, from his brother and his sister-in-law. One afternoon, I got to hang with him a little bit and have lunch with him, and sort of obliquely and also directly ask them questions about him. There were sides to him that I was really grateful to find out about. um, personal sort of traits of his that were really useful. It's kind of a dream team, right? It's kind of like, yeah, just an amazing privilege, you know. I mean, I couldn't be more fortunate. What's great about working with, being on a set with people like that, and in their company, or even seeing them at the hotel and spending, or at base camp or what have you, is that there are people here that I learned from, and so that's ultimately kind of what keeps me going. Is that if I'm able to learn stuff and be teachable as an actor, as a character maker, then it's you know, what could be better? Working on a movie with people like that, where I can learn from and I can, you know, hopefully apply some of that. I mean, and they're also all just fantastic human beings.
I think it was nuanced, you know, trying not to make it good guy, bad guy, you know, a political preach to the choir, you know, really, there's a lot of ambivalences and ambiguities that are in life, you know, so movie has to make it all look, you know, like it all wraps up with a bow, but this one, I love that Todd recognizes that we're in an imperfect world. We have probably the best justice system, even when it's under siege. We do believe in the rule of law, and every once in a while, we get, you know, rewarded with the knowledge that it did work the way it should, you know. I play Harry Ditzler, who was a personal injury lawyer. I had prejudices against them too. I saw your face, but yeah, you know, Rob was, you know, who was really bringing the case, was a corporate lawyer, and they knew it was going to be tried in West Virginia, so they needed to find a local boy who knew people and could make an appeal to jurors to kind of show the human side. So, yeah, he's a little flamboyant. Yeah, he likes to, you know, he knows how to crunch the emotions and everything, but and I just talked to him today because I said, Harry, I'm going in and seeing the movie, and he had seen it already and really liked it. And he's so glad that he was part of the story, and so that's good. You know, in these times where entertainment, you know, becomes, you know, in a way it's reversed. Like movies used to be the thoughtful medium, and TV was the lowbrow, and now, you know, movies are really high, big tent platform, you know, splashy things, and the content is not often like our content. So I'm proud that this movie got made, and I feel lucky that I was part of it. It's something that educates and motivates people to do the right thing. Well, I hope that they understand that, you know, that when there are grievances with a corporation that is, yeah, providing jobs, yep, providing money to community, yep, sustaining not only themselves but their grandfathers. And if they aren't doing the right thing, you still have to stand up, even if it might be dangerous to your livelihood and others around you. You got to stand up, and these people did. You know, the tenants, they all came forward. All of these people who are looking to make a claim come from a culture who aren't supposed to do that. They aren't supposed to complain. They're supposed to just take whatever the company policy is because they're lucky to have a job, you know. So I think they're the real heroes.
So at that time, I wanted to get more into producing, and I wanted to mix my activism with storytelling so that you could transcend some of the political divides that come up immediately when people see an activist, you know. Their ears shut, you know, but their hearts don't shut when they see real human beings walking through the minefields of life and seeing themselves in those people. And this felt like a perfect intro to both those worlds of activism and making films that that maybe can spur a discussion at a particular moment in time when we need to have that discussion. Rob Bilott is this rare kind of human being who, at the height of his career, at the height of the money and the success and the prestige, listened to a farmer with a 12th grade education who came to him and said, my land is poisoned, my animals are poisoned, and I think DuPont did it. Can you help me out? And he said, yeah, I know those folks. Let me get into it. A few phone calls should be clear this up pretty quickly. And 20 years later, here we are. Took pay cuts, lost friends, had the community turn on him. His health went, and he gave everything. It's just a rare journey to take today. He's a really good guy, and he's the most modest, beautiful, soft-spoken, lovely guy. He's a hero. He's a real hero. I play heroes. He is a hero. And then I play heroes playing heroes. These problems are ongoing. It's systematic. We have to change. We have to have a political revolution of heart and spirit and family to deal with these issues. These issues transcend the last 8 presidents. It doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican. These issues are passed from one time to the next. So we have to revolutionize this system to be responsive to the people and not just capitalism. That the community has been part of it. You know, that we centered on the community, we told the truth about the community, we let them into the filmmaking process, they're in the movie. It's just very simple and honest and modest, but incredibly inspiring.
Amazing director. So talented, so adept at telling stories in different forms, using film in a new way, a fresh way. Such a great experience. Well, it's a story that needs to be told. It's, first of all, a really compelling, exciting movie. That whistleblower genre, thriller. The fact that it's true is even more exciting. To be telling Rob Bilott's story, to be participating in a story that can also inform its audience about something that is toxic out there in our world that has not been talked about. To be able to use the medium of film to spread that message is a great pleasure and privilege and honor. And I think Todd has done an amazing job in making it a story that's accessible for everybody. I play Tom Terp, who was Rob Bilott's boss, and quite an extraordinary decision he made, running a law firm and allowing that whose clients are predominantly chemical companies. Usually they represent them against lawsuits, and Tom Terp allowed Rob Bilott to sue DuPont because he believed that there's a moral bottom line that has to take place in business, and then if one business is violating that morality, then it's hurtful to all business. So I always look for characters that have complexity, dichotomy in them, and this gentleman really was that kind of character. Well, I hope people will, first of all, become informed. I think it's important to get away from the use of these chemicals that are now in all of our bloodstreams. Today in the New York Times on the front page, there's an article about how the EPA is trying to get rid of the science that has backed these issues in the past. This EPA is trying to has been rolling back regulations that protect all of us, and that's not just Democrats or Republicans, it's all of us. You know, bad water and bad air affects the health of people regardless of their politics. So this is an issue that's much larger than what's happening right now and who's in power right now. This has been happening for years, and it's high time that people knew what was happening with these toxic chemicals.
Because it's an incredibly important, incredibly relevant story. But it's an incredibly moving and heartbreaking story, you know. And the way it asks you to join Rob's experience in his discovery of this story about Teflon and DuPont is really, I think, where it gets you, you know, because he's an unlikely hero. He's somebody who was on the other side of the system, defending the chemical industry. So when his eyes open up to this story and he gains a voice in how to speak to power, right? You feel like you could do it too. I think that's really where the power of it lies. I think it was paying acute attention to the real man. And I think that was something that both myself and Mark and my entire creative team wanted to really honor. The place that we were in, the people that surrounded us, and really told us what their experiences were like. And shooting we shot in the actual Taft law offices in Cincinnati. You know, we were around Jim Tennant, the surviving brother of the farmer that Bill Camp plays so eloquently in the film. The fact that he even survived all of that is remarkable. So listening to those people and really bringing them into our process was something I'd never really done before in a movie. And I think that gave it real gravity and depth. Well, their passion and the activism that Mark brings from his life to the role was remarkable to be around, and Tim Robbins as well. But the amazing thing was to really watch them become the actors that they are and take this story as seriously as they did and really try to understand their characters, especially for their contradictory natures. The fact that they really aren't people set up to take on the system the way they do. And I think that meant a lot to Tim Robbins as well, because he feels like if corporate America can start to develop some moral and ethical directives, there's hope for change, you know? And that's exactly what you see his character doing in the course of the film. The story connects to so many systemic problems and issues in our culture, in our politics. And so there's so many battles to wage in our lives. But I do think it puts it back into our hands, this story. Because there's not a slam dunk victory dance at the end of this movie. You see that corporate power is going to continue to push back and execute its ruthless force, right? And so there's no simple solution. It's up to the individual to figure out where you start saying no and how we vote for change, but demonstrate for change, take direct action for change. And so hopefully that will motivate and inspire people to do exactly that.